Hi everyone and welcome to Lipstick on a Rig. Today we're going to be making this slouchy sort of funky Santa belt beanie for Christmas. And this beanie is part of my 4 skein challenge where I see how many different projects I can make using only 4 skeins of yarn. So please check the links in the description for the rest of my projects in this series. And they are all Christmas related. And for our Santa beanie, we're going to be working with size 4 medium weight acrylic yarn. And the colors I'm using for this are Varsity Red, Black, and Cream. I'm also going to be using a size F or 5 or 3.75 millimeter crochet hook. And this Santa hat does have a precursor video, and that is my how to crochet a beanie brim. And I will link to that precursor video in the description. So for that video, I'm working with a size F or 5 crochet hook, and I crocheted a beanie brim that is 9 stitches deep and roughly 18 inches wide. And once you have your brim crocheted, go ahead and pull your crochet hook out, but don't cut or tie off the yarn. Next, we're going to crochet our belt buckle. And now, working with our cream colored yarn, we are going to tie a slip knot to attach our crochet hook. And we're going to chain 10. Once you have your 10 chains in place, then turn them over so that you can access these back bumps back here. We're going to place 1 single crochet in each of these back bumps. So when you get to the end of your row, you should have a total of 10 single crochets. And when you get to the end of your row, you're going to chain 1 and turn your work. From here, we're going to skip our turning chain and we're going to place 1 single crochet in the following stitch. Then we're going to place 1 single crochet in the remaining 9 stitches of our row. And once you have your 10 single crochets in place, then you're going to chain 1 and turn your work. And we are going to repeat that last row 6 times. And once you've repeated that last row 6 times, we are going to chain 8. And we're going to insert our crochet hook on this opposite end here. So right there, in the last stitch from the first row. And we're going to place a single crochet there. Then we're going to place 1 single crochet in each of these stitches from the first row. And when you get to the end of your row, you are just going to chain 8 again. And again, we are going to insert our crochet hook in this first stitch from our last row. We're going to place a single crochet. And we're going to place 1 single crochet in the remaining stitches until we get back to our other chain 8 over here. And when you get back to your chain 8, you're going to work around the chains as a whole. And we're going to place 8 single crochets around our chain 8. So to do that, insert your crochet hook in the gap between the square and your chains, and yarn over and pull up through. Then yarn over and drop the 2 loops on your crochet hook. Go ahead and repeat that until you have 8 single crochets over your chain. And when you get back to your original single crochet from before, go ahead and just place another single crochet there. And we're going to place one single crochet in the remaining stitches between our chain 8s. And again, we are going to place 8 single crochets over our chains. And once you've placed your 8 single crochets, then we're just going to insert our crochet hook back in that first stitch over here, and we're going to place a single crochet. Then we're going to place one single crochet in the remaining stitches from this row. And when you get back to your chain 8, you're going to chain 1, and then you're going to place one single crochet in each of these stitches going all the way around the row. And once you've made it back around past your second chain 8, what you're going to do is place one slip stitch in your remaining 10 stitches instead of placing single crochets. And once you're done placing your 10 slip stitches, then you're just going to cut and tie off your yarn. And we're going to leave all of our tails so that we can attach this to our project. And now that we've finished our belt buckle, we are going to draw the brim up through the belt buckle like this. And once you have your belt buckle on your brim, then you're going to fold your brim in half, and you want this to be inside out. So the wrong side should be facing out. And I know this is going to be really tough to see with the black yarn, and I apologize for that. But if you go back to your precursor video, we're just going to follow those same steps for crocheting these two short edges together. And all we're really going to do is insert our crochet hook in corresponding stitches on both sides of the brim, and we're going to place a slip stitch through them. So I'm going to show you, but again, I know it's pretty tough to see, but what you're going to do is insert your crochet hook in the very last stitch from your first row, as well as the last stitch from our current row. And make sure on your current row that you've placed a chain stitch to turn. And once you've inserted your crochet hook in these corresponding stitches, then you're just going to yarn over and pull through all the loops on your crochet hook for a slip stitch. And we're just going to repeat that, moving on to the next stitch for every stitch in our row. And once you're done joining your two edges together, then we're just going to cut and tie off our yarn. And I like to tie my starting and ending tails together twice just to secure them. And now we're just going to turn our brim inside out. And next, we're just going to section our brim off into 4 equal parts. And we will be working in this back part of our belt. So I like to sort of line my belt buckle up on the opposite side of where my crochet hook is going to go, which is right here where we just joined our two edges. So this is going to be the back of the beanie, and this is going to be the front. So next, go ahead and grab your red yarn, and we are going to attach this yarn to our crochet hook using a slip knot. And we're going to work on the edge of our brim, so make sure you're working on the side with your two tails. And just go ahead and insert your crochet hook in one of the available loops near your tails. And I am going to crochet over my tails, so go ahead and pull your red tail to the side because we'll crochet over that in the next row. And then grab your two black tails and drape them over your crochet hook. And from here we're going to yarn over and pull up through our stitch. So we should have two red loops on our crochet hook. And then we're going to yarn over and drop those two loops for a single crochet. Next, we're going to add a chain one to that. And so from here, we're going to be placing double crochets in the available loops along our edge. And so our goal is to get 84 double crochets going around our brim. And that does not include our single crochet chain that we just created. So for spacing, we're going to try to get 21 double crochets in each of these 4 sections going along our row. And like I said, we're just going to be working in these available loops. And if you want to, I recommend working over your tails. So go ahead and place your 84 double crochets going around your row. And I went ahead and placed my 84 double crochets around my row. And I wanted to show you that when you get to your belt buckle, it's important that you don't crochet on the top of the belt buckle, but instead you want to try to find a row that sort of lines up with your brim and place double crochet stitches there. And you won't be working in traditional stitches, but they might look something like these loops right here. So you kind of want this to be a line behind your belt rather than a hump that goes on top. And once you've placed your 84 double crochet stitches, it should look something like this. And so from here, we're going to skip our single crochet chain stitch, and we're going to slip stitch into the top of our first double crochet stitch. And don't forget to grab that red tail to work over it. And for our next row, we're going to chain 2, and all we're going to do is place 1 double crochet in each stitch in our row. And that does include this very first stitch where we placed our slip stitch. So at the end of your row, you should have a total of 84 double crochet stitches as well as a chain 2. And when you get to the end of your row, make sure you have not worked in that slip stitch. And we're going to place a slip stitch in the top of our first double crochet stitch. So we're going to skip our chain 2 altogether. And from here, we're just going to repeat that last row a few times to build the body of our beanie. And I went ahead and placed 12 rows in total of my double crochet stitch. And so from here, we're going to begin to decrease. And so we're going to start by chaining 2. And then we're going to place 1 double crochet in our first 5 stitches. And once you've placed your 5 double crochet stitches, then we're going to double crochet together our 6th and our 7th stitch. So to do that, insert your crochet hook up underneath your 6th stitch and yarn over and pull through. Then up underneath your 7th stitch and yarn over and pull through. Then yarn over and drop 2 loops at a time to finish out your stitch. And that's going to be our pattern for the entire row. So we're going to place one double crochet in our next 5 stitches, and then we are going to double crochet together the 6th and the 7th. And we're just going to continue to repeat that pattern until we get to the end of our row. And we should have a total of 72 double crochets when we're done. And when you get to the end of your row, you're going to skip your slip stitch and your chain 2, and you're going to slip stitch into the top of your first double crochet stitch. Then we're going to chain 2, and we're going to place one double crochet in our first 4 stitches. And then we're going to double crochet together the 5th and the 6th stitch. And we're just going to repeat that pattern going all the way around our row. And when we get done, we should have a total of 60 double crochet stitches. And at the end of your row, you're just going to slip stitch into the top of your first double crochet stitch. And the pattern for our next row is to chain 2, and then we're going to place one double crochet in our first 3 stitches, and then we're going to double crochet together stitch 4 and stitch 5. And we're just going to repeat that going all the way around our row. And when we get to the end of our row, we should have a total of 48 double crochet stitches. And again, at the end of our row, we're going to skip our slip stitch and our chain 2, and we're going to slip stitch into the top of our first double crochet stitch. And for our next row, we're going to chain 2, and then we're going to place one double crochet in our first 2 stitches, and then we're going to double crochet together stitch 3 and stitch 4. We're just going to repeat that going all the way around our row, and when we get done, we should have a total of 36 double crochet stitches. And at the end of our row, we're going to skip our slip stitch and our chain 2, and we're going to slip stitch into the top of our first double crochet stitch. And again, we are going to chain 2, and the pattern for this row is going to be to place one double crochet in our first stitch, and then we're going to double crochet together the 2nd and the 3rd stitch. And we're just going to repeat that going all the way around our row. And when we get done, we should have a total of 24 double crochet stitches. And again, at the end of our row, we're going to skip our slip stitch and our chain 2, and we're going to slip stitch into the top of our first double crochet stitch. And from here, we are going to chain 2, and then we are just going to double crochet together 2 stitches at a time. And so when we get to the end of our row, we should have a total of 12 double crochet stitches. And at the end of our row, we're going to skip our slip stitch and our chain 2, and we're going to slip stitch together our first 3 stitches. So to do that, insert your crochet hook up underneath the first stitch and yarn over and pull up through. Then up underneath your 2nd stitch and yarn over and pull through. Then up under your 3rd stitch and yarn over and drop all the loops on your crochet hook. Now we're going to repeat that 3 more times until we get to the end of our row. And now the hole at the top of our beanie should be very small. So we're just going to insert our crochet hook in one of the stitches across from that hole and yarn over and pull through for a slip stitch. And I like to repeat that again on the other side. And now we're going to cut and tie off our yarn. And I am going to tuck my tail inside my beanie and attach my pom-pom to it. And now we're going to make our buttons, and I'm going to show you how to make these with a lighter color yarn, but you're going to want to use your black yarn to make the buttons. And we're going to begin with a magic circle. So we're going to drape our tail over our working yarn and insert our crochet hook in that loop. And then change hands and yarn over and pull through that loop. And from here, we're going to place 13 double crochets inside our magic circle. And if you've never worked with a magic circle before, it's important to note that you're going to place these double crochets in the loop as well as over your tail. And once you have your 13 double crochets inside your magic circle, then you're just going to pull on that tail to tighten the gap. And normally we would crochet over our tail, but we're not going to. So now we're just going to skip this very first double crochet, and we're going to place a slip stitch in the top of our second double crochet. And from here, we're going to cut and tie off our yarn. And you can place as many buttons as you want, but once you have the number of buttons that you want to place on your beanie, then just go ahead and attach them using the tails. And then after attaching your buttons, go ahead and attach a pom-pom, and I will link to my DIY pom-pom maker in the description, but I just attached a cream pom-pom to this. Please let me know in the comments below if you experienced any issues while you were making this, and I will do my best to help you out. If this video helped you, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel, Lipstick on a Rig. Thank you so much for working with me, and I hope you have a wonderful, awesome day.